Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? My name is Marley Dias. I am so happy. First of all, can we give an amazing round of applause to the MFA for having us and hosting us in this amazing space? I cannot believe the room that I get to stand in on Black History Month, leading with this team and hosting the first ever Coach Story Sessions. It's an amazing series where we're going to be doing fireside chats, panel conversations, and bringing together Gen Z voices to tell our stories. If you guys didn't see today, Coach launched an amazing campaign showing off new book charms featuring books that you all have a copy of, which is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings with Maya Angelou. And I'm so happy to be able to host this event in Boston. And as you all might notice, there is one chair today, which is very sad. Boston is known for its bad weather, so we will have our amazing guest, the Emmy-winning actress, producer, USC student, baddie, Storm Reid, virtually today. Are you guys ready for that conversation? Okay. And I think before we begin with the conversation, I want to give one more piece of context as to why I'm even doing a fashion event in the first place. I mean, I am an activist, and I think there's many things to say about the deep irony of any activist or any person that wants to be in a space doing things in luxury and in fashion and flashy stuff. But we know that with Coach, whether it's my conversation I hosted back in 8th grade with the CEO of Tapestry at their offices, or my conversation at the Story Lab Summit this break, interviewing Malala, something is happening with this brand where we want to prioritize stories. And today, this conversation with Storm will be intimate, it will be close, and it will be around things that she might not share in other spaces or in other forums. So I ask that, given all the things going on in the world, given all the deep ironies of any situation around books and fashion and story and community and how we combine all, you guys ready for an intimate, fun night where we think new things and do new stuff in new places? Are we ready for that? Okay. All right. Then I think we can kick it off with the one and only Storm Reid, right? We ready? Let's see if we can get Storm. Hey, Storm, how are you? Let's see.
For me, first of all, I want to extend my sincerest apologies that I'm not there with you guys today. I feel so bad I could cry. I try to make it work. I was at the airport this morning, but my flight just kept getting delayed, and it just seemed like I wasn't going to make it in time, and I didn't want to be unfair to you guys and keep y'all waiting. So I hope that we can make this up. We can do a rain check and we can do this in person, but I'm so glad that we are able to figure out this, virtual setup for now. And I just want to say sorry again and thank you guys for taking the time out of your busy schedules to come see me and Marley talk. And it's like, not negative, but it's like negative degrees outside. So, even more gratitude for you guys coming out.
Yeah, I know. Storm and I talked earlier, and we were like, it's cold and the weather and Mercury retrograde and all the things. Like, we just have to put our trust in our faith and do it again, do it well today, and then get to do it in person in the future. But let's jump into the questions, I feel. So, I think the first thing that I find interesting is that you are the youngest of four, which I don't know, slash, you very much give older sister vibes to me and how much you do and accomplish. So, can you tell us about your family and how they shaped you into wanting to be such a go-getter? Because I think sometimes with the younger sibling, we can think like, oh, they just want to be like silly and fun, and maybe being a performer is. But how did you come to get that support from your family?
Yeah, so I have two older sisters and an older brother. And yeah, I'm the youngest and I am known to be the annoying little sister and I take that title with full pride. So I love being a little sister and I love being annoying, but I mean, I grew up in Atlanta and I think Atlanta as a place has really shaped me because it has a certain energy. It's black excellence, it's culture, it's ambition, it's community. So, having those things, being from Atlanta, and then also having not only my siblings and a great support system and family, but my mom, is a big reason, a big part of why I do what I do and who I am today. She has really poured into me and shaped me and nurtured my confidence and really has supported my dreams. So I'm really thankful for her and all that she has done. And she is a person who really understands what it means to take ownership behind your story, behind your voice, behind how you want to take up space in the world. So, between Atlanta, my siblings, my family, and my mom, I think that's what's really shaped me.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a beautiful foundation. And your mom, I feel like, embodies grace in many ways, where she's super chill, even in very, chaotic spaces, which, like Fashion Week a couple weeks ago, she was
Yeah.
just holding everybody down. But my fun fact, or my fun question for you is, what do you think is something that is like so Atlanta about you that never changed, even with moving to LA at like 9 years old? Because you are half and half in some ways, but I feel like you've emphasized Atlanta, of course.
Yes, absolutely. I emphasize Atlanta. I will always emphasize Atlanta. Like, yes, I've been in LA for a very long time, but I don't claim it. And I feel like there's not one specific thing that is like ATL about me. You know, the song that I'm so ATL,
Get
like
in
that.
there.
I get in there. Like, I am that. Like, that is me. Like, everything that I do and how I take up space is Atlanta, I think. And it kind of surprises people like when they get to be around me or spend time with me. Like I'm not just this like cookie cutter girl that does all these things. And yes, I went to USC and I've done some amazing things, but it's also like my authenticity is being a girl from the South and having fun and getting down and dirty and not being perfect and being flawed. And I love that for me.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way about Jersey. Anybody knows whether you go to any college, a Jersey person is gonna rep Jersey until they die. It's like it's
And
our yeah, it's like we can't stop doing it. And I think it can be similar to Atlanta. But I am curious still, what even led your family to make the decision to move to Hollywood? Like, how young did you know that it was your calling? And then what even is that conversation like as a kid being like, we're gonna uproot, you're the youngest too. So there's been a whole foundation that's exist. And then like the last one comes and we're moving across the country.
Yeah, it was a crazy transition. I've been acting since I was 3. I'm almost 23, excuse me. I'm almost 23. So, it's been a while, but it was definitely like something that I wanted to do and that I asked my mom to do. I told her at 3 that I wanted to be on TV and I wanted to be a superstar, whatever that meant. I was just like really intrigued and really loved movies. And my mom was like, "Girl, what are you talking about?" And I like repeated myself, and she really like I guess her thought process was like if my child is 3 and saying what she wants to do for the rest of her life, like I don't know if this is going to work out, but like as a business person, as a businesswoman, and then just a supportive mom, she really wanted to help me see it through. But moving from Atlanta, that was a tough transition. It was only my mom and I that moved. Everybody else stayed in Atlanta is still in Atlanta. So it wasn't like a big family move, but of course, being 9 and leaving everything that you know and you love is a really hard transition and was very difficult for me. But my mom made sure that I went home and I saw my dad and I saw my siblings. And, as I've gotten older, I go back all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you also give so much back to the community, and I think that really goes to show like you spread your support between LA, your Black experience, Black womanhood, and then of course the Atlanta community. It's so beautiful, and I think even with all that conviction you have to be an actor, it doesn't mean that when you get here and got to LA and started auditioning, you felt perfect about it. So what's something when you look back on all of these years and all of the career that has been built through 20 years only at 22? What's a moment you have like alone or with your family that you see completely different now as like an early part of your career as an actor where you didn't really know what you were doing at the time when you made that call, but now it's like, is it the move? Is it like a specific role you auditioned for? Is it a project you read or a person you met that you're like, wow, that was a key, and I didn't realize that that was a key.
Yeah, I think it is a culmination of things, but I feel like, I have a completely different perspective from being, obviously a young child actor to now like a young adult. But I think what really shaped my moments as an actress and, has really like helped me stay grounded and wanting to, keep pushing forward and continue on my mission is like the no's and the rejections
Mhm.
that I've gotten over the years. Like
Mhm.
this journey, it might seem easy. It might seem like, things happened overnight, but they definitely haven't. And I've had to fight for every role, every space, every opportunity that I've gained. So, I mean, when you're younger, rejection feels personal and it feels big. But now I understand the philosophy of redirection. And some rooms, like you're not meant to be in, some opportunities are not meant for you. And sometimes rejection is protection. So I think, I always have to continue to remind myself of that because I will read a script or I'll want to do a project that I feel like will be great or I feel really invested in, but it might not turn out the way I want it to. And I know that's God and it's out of my hands.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I hate that the relationship to rejection is one of the most important relationships you'll have like in your life, genuinely.
Yeah.
Like if you continue to see it as the worst thing, every time it happens, it will be the worst thing to happen.
Yeah. It's
Um
gonna feel like the
yeah,
world's in.
it's just going to feel like the worst and you have to continue to put it lower and lower on your rankings of like things that annoy you, which I don't enjoy at all. But
Right.
I want to talk about your first big yes, which is how we got to know each other through A Wrinkle in Time and through the amazing Ava DuVernay who wrote the introduction to my book, Marley Dias Gets It Done, and So Can You. When I started doing my activism as a child, I interviewed her and interviewed you about the project. And I mean, that book in and of itself, when it came out in the 60s, was challenged for its content. I mean, it's about a girl who's dreaming incredibly big ideas for an incredibly conservative time. So how did that and kind of like the context behind even, Ava wanting to choose that story and just like the project as your first big as this kind of first big feature, how did you approach that role knowing that it would be a creative partnership? Like you were kind of being asked to be a creative partner in this reimagining with Ava super young or young in the eyes of many. So how
Yeah.
did you approach that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I realized the gravity of the situation until the movie came out. But I actually had read the book in sixth grade. And the idea of the book itself was very like heavy, and I was very intrigued by it, but also very confused. And then 2 years later is when I got the opportunity to audition. So of course I was so excited that I was familiar with the book, but then I also like, revisited it during the process. But once I got the role, it's something that I always think about, but I always would be on set or in rehearsal or just be around Miss Ava during the production, and I think I would just find myself stopping in my tracks and asking her like, "Why me? Why me?" And it wasn't me coming from a space of like thinking about the gravity of me being casted as Meg Murray. I understood that that was a very important choice that Miss Ava made. But I think it was just me kind of having imposter syndrome in those moments, like feeling like I didn't really deserve to have the role just because of my own self-doubt and insecurities. But then when the movie came out and I realized like how important it was for me to be a part of that film, and when young girls would start coming up to me and thank me for allowing themselves to see themselves save the world, that's when my perspective started to shift, and I realized that I was a part of something that was bigger than myself and bigger than my career.
Mm. See themselves save the world. I love that so much, Storm. You just like that. That's a really beautiful way, I think, to put what the story of A Wrinkle in Time is about, and also what Ava is doing and what you've been doing. And you mentioned before that your mom is a businesswoman, and you hit it hard. Every time you hit it hard. And I think that it goes to show through your amazing work through like A Seed in Wings, right, where you have this production company that and her started. You were 14, I believe, right at the time. And I think it's you'd gotten a sense of the industry, or you've gotten a sense of the industry your whole life. That's already 9 years in the game. But, there was so much, I think, at the time around making the industry more inclusive. And obviously to this day, we're having this conversation. So, how was starting A Seed and Wing either a reflection to that pushback, or do you feel that, you and your mom were always going to be entrepreneurs? Like, was it a swarm of all the things happening in the industry that made you want to start the company? Or was it like, this is always going to be the plan we want to build up? I mean, because it's hard to know, right? We don't know. We just see things launch, and we want to know like what was the cooking behind that? How'd you guys cook that one up?
Yeah, I mean, my mom has always taught us to be dreamers, like shoot for the moon. Anything that you want in this world, you can touch it if it's meant to be. So I think starting a production company was just really a dream. And it wasn't reactionary. It was very intentional, especially by my mom. But I think when you experience pushback, especially at such a young age, whether it be from me being in A Wrinkle in Time and they wanted to see a white girl in the role and not a young black girl, or just like the different experiences of having to come across rejection, I think, it teaches you that there are just some rooms that people do not want you to walk into. So instead of asking for permission, you should just ask for forgiveness later and create the room, create the table, create space at the table, not only for yourself, but for other people. Like you want to barge into the elevator and keep the elevator open for the people around you. So I think that was really our intention. It's like we wanted ownership, we wanted agency, and we wanted to give people opportunities to, live out their dreams, because there's so many creative, talented, wonderful human beings that are capable of doing so many amazing things, but they just don't get the opportunity to
Mhm,
do so.
mhm.
So to be able to, do that and then create multifaceted content that represent and look like the real world is what we really wanted to do.
No, I love that response so much because I think about like artists like Tyler the Creator or Ryan Coogler who talk about blackness and black entrepreneurship where it's not always through the lens of a reaction. It's just that like racism and inequality persists. So it will
Yeah.
always be slightly reactionary to inequality to start
Right.
anything because
Yeah.
we don't always have a fair shot. And I love that you have continued, I think that spirit of collaboration, which I've seen through taking your talents all the way up to New York City and like Get Light with Tiana Taylor now, where you're working in dancing, which I find literally crazy. I saw that. I saw the over break you like you getting light, and I was like, damn, is she from New York? Like, where did this come from? So can you tell
You're
us
too
all?
kind.
Yeah, can you tell us about that project? Because I think people they see the business side, they see the student side, but I think working with Tiana is she's someone who represents doing it all, right? And I know that even in this project, she is asking you to do it all by dancing and it becoming a part of her culture in many ways. So tell us about that. I want to hear about this. I feel like I couldn't imagine how much of a project it's been or an undertaking.
Yeah, no, it's been a huge undertaking. We've been working on this project for like 4 years, and it's been bittersweet, of course, because there's been ups and downs and regime changes and just a whole lot that goes into making a movie that you really don't have to think about just as an actor. Like, you get your start date and you go on set. But as a producer, like I have my hands on and my eyes on everything. But I think it's been a great challenge. And then to be able to work with, Tiana has been just so powerful. And like you said, like she is on her stuff and she is unapologetically authentically herself, and I think that she brings that into whatever she puts her hands on. So she wants the dance to be good, she wants the movie to be good, she just wants it to be good as a whole. But this is also her directorial debut, so I think we're all just trying to find our footing. But we're really getting close, and I'm excited to explore a story that's not only about dance and get light, but it's about vulnerability and ambition and identity and like growing up and morphing into things that you may have never even thought you could morph into. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an incredible project because it also shows I think it's going to show how black creatives just continue to transform, right? It's you doing something new and Tiana doing something new and you're being a producer. Like there's so much innovation happening where I'm excited to see what little black girls and little people everywhere, viewers and fans get. And my
Yeah.
last question to you before we flip it to me, which I'm nervous for,
No, girl,
is
don't be nervous.
I won't. Yeah, I'll try not to be. If you could adapt any book for the screen, what would it be, and who would your dream cast be? I would like you to cast yourself, but if you don't have to cast yourself, but I would love it if you cast yourself.
Okay, I was thinking about this question because I had a feeling it would come up, and I was super nervous because I don't have the clearest answer. But there is a playwright. I'm gonna butcher her last name, but her name is Dominique. Her last name is like Meniscu. I probably butchered that. But she wrote a play called Skeleton Crew, and I would love to see that adapted for like a TV show or for the screen, like theatrically. I think it is a story about black people, people of color trying to find their own way given the circumstances of the world. And I think it's just so relatable because nobody is the villain in this story. They're all just trying to be the superhero of their own stories and, working at like a facility plant. And the story is so simple. And I don't want to go into like all the details because I'm going to butcher it. But basically, it's these group of people who are, like I just said, trying to find their way and trying to navigate the world. Um, that they live in, but of course, that world is not so accepting of them, and not so accepting of how they show up to work, and not so accepting of how they are employees, if that makes sense. So
Mhm.
I probably didn't do a great job of explaining that, and I don't know who my dream cast would be, but I will be in it, so I'll keep y'all updated.
Okay, perfect. No, absolutely. I saw a play with Carrie Young, who's like a Tony. She's an actress called Gruesome Playground Injuries with cousin Greg from Succession and her, and it was so good. It's just like two best friends through like ages 5 to 35, slightly getting
Wow.
injured every couple
Yeah.
years, and then like sitting like it's just two people on opposite sides of the stage dealing with their gruesome playground injuries, and it was like kind of situationship, and then at the end it wasn't, and I was like, thank God it wasn't about love. It was actually about friendship, and it made me really happy.
Yeah.
But those are my questions for you. So can we give a round of applause to Storm for she handled that. She just handled that. For someone who was sitting in an airport all day trying to figure out if they were going to be here or not, I'm so glad that you are not on a plane right now and that we could actually even have the event to make it happen,
No,
because that would have been the worst if it could just had to be me half pretending to be you, for going behind the camera and then pretending to be you.
right. No,
Yeah.
literally, I'm so glad that it's working out. And now to you, Missy. Okay, so my first question is, can you tell us a little bit more about what led you to launch 1000 Black Girl Books program in sixth grade? Because sixth grade, what were you, like, 11 or
Yeah, I
12?
was I was super duper young. So,
Yeah,
um,
crazy.
I know it's pretty crazy. But the reason why I started the 1000 Black Girl Books campaign, I mean, I usually tell the story pretty short and sweet, but it is a little bit complicated. And it starts first, as any good story does, with my mom, Dr. Janice Johnson Dias. She's in this room. She'll
Yes.
love that impression. Um, and she is the founder of a nonprofit called the Grassroots Community Foundation. So she founded that in 2010 with Tariq Black Thought, like of the Roots. He's one of our like family friends, and his daughter Celia and me were just two Black girls in the suburbs who didn't really have like that same affinity and resources that our parents grew up with, right? And our parents were noticing that we didn't really have community as young Black girls. So they started a nonprofit, which then turned into like a girls' leadership camp called Super Camp that I was a part of from 5 to 10, right? So that gives the context that I think I usually don't give, where I'm like, I just woke up one day and I decided to do this thing. And it's like, no, like I was so lucky to have a mom and a parent and a community that had created and noticed that like Black girls were never even going to be given the space to talk about their problems. Like literally to even like be brought into a room altogether, to be told their hair is beautiful, to like learn about their history. So I had spent those 5 summers leading up to that with my mom and like my friends from preschool and my community running a summer camp for Black girls. That's like the prelude. So then I get to sixth grade and I see a book being assigned about a white boy and his dog, which I had already read in the previous year. And I go to the diner with my mom and I say, I am sick and tired of reading about white boys and their dogs. And that was the beginning of the campaign. It was very clear that I couldn't handle the cycle of my experience not being reflected, or the cycle of, not thinking about new stories and new experiences to bring in. And she told me, what are you going to do about it? Which required me to then think of, okay, I should start a book drive. It should be about Black girls. I should give them away to not just kids in my school, but to kids in Jamaica, to kids in Philadelphia, to kids in New Jersey, because I'm not the only kid who's not seeing themselves. In fact, we're 13% of the population in most of the world. So maybe we should have these books. And luckily, I feel like the internet was a wholesomer place back then. And like I was a young Black child who was hopeful. And I felt like Black Twitter, we people forget the power of Black Twitter back in the day. Like I had, you know, after I think I did an appearance on the Ellen show in 2016, after no success, and then all of a sudden it was like, there is this girl who finally wants kids to read, and she wants them to read about their history. And it was enough to make people care about me for now, what, 10 years? Which is pretty crazy, to ask this simple question of where's the diversity in children's books. I think it goes to show that, it is wild for it to have started with me in a diner with my mom, and then a bit of phone interview with you, and then 2016, and then all of a sudden you jump to like New York Fashion Week 2 weeks ago and a room in the MFA. It feels pretty crazy that you could ask the question of, I want to be a superstar, or how can I be a superstar? And me ask the question of, how can everybody know that Black girls are superstars? And I think we did a pretty damn good job if we just keep asking that question. So that's
Yeah.
the story
Cute.
of 1000 Black Girl Books, I think, in a nutshell.
Yes, no, that's amazing. And I mean, I think your mom is the coolest. And I was telling her that a couple weeks ago at Fashion Week, but I just think it is just so refreshing and amazing that, we were able to go to our moms and, pose questions or say that what we wanted to do. And they, one nurtured that and supported that, not only for us, but I think especially your mom, really pouring into you and creating a space where you felt comfortable enough to not only think about yourself, because you could have took that moment and been like, okay, well, these are the list of books that I want to read and these are the list of books that are reflective of me, but you could have just kept that to yourself. You could have gate kept that and not, tried to, create this global movement. So just shout out to your mama.
Yes, she's the best.
She is. Okay.
Yeah.
So you achieved a lot at a young age, obviously. As you pursue your goals, your dreams, your passions in the future, do you feel pressure from your past success? And if you do, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, I feel a lot of pressure because I'm like, the time is moving super slow for all the
Mm,
things that are happening at certain times, if that makes sense. Where it's like, I have a very particular vision. And that's the reason why I started 1000 Black Girl Books is so that Black girls can see themselves reflected in schools, right? And, I'm focused on like the arc of change over my lifetime and all the things that I can do. And it can be really hard to think about, starting this. When I started this, there was a Department of Education, first of all.
Yeah.
There was a national curriculum or national reading list that could be accessible to kids. There was funding and like teachers were paid more. And I think that the reason why I feel pressure for myself is to watch things move backwards over time that's moving forwards, right? And then to see that I'm able to like maintain my hope, but how am I supposed to I think the pressure I feel is how am I supposed to encourage others to have hope when they don't have the same tools to be hopeful?
Mm,
Right?
mm,
It's like I can't teach other people how to look at the past and look at the future and think like, thank God that we are not, enslaved, or thank God that I as a woman can have a bank account, or thank God that I as a queer person can get married. I can't teach people to be more grateful for the progress that's been made. And by me not being able to do that, it means that sometimes the progress slips back because
mm.
nobody was grateful for the Department of Education when it existed. So nobody was able to really do anything to stop it to get removed. And like
Yeah.
that's the problem for me at least is knowing that I don't have like you can't play God, right? Like you are just one person. So I think the
Mhm.
pressure is more having this like sense of connectivity through the internet. It makes me so sad to see people be hopeless. Like that's
Mm,
what makes me feel pressure is when I can't control, when I feel like I haven't done enough to make people see that like change will come even if it's not coming right now. Like that's a very deep answer, but it's like no on the day to day because I do feel overall that if people continue to be hopeless, like I'm an activist. I do this for the people. Like it will never happen just for me. So I'm always taking the temperature of like my followers, if that makes sense. And if my followers are posting a lot of sad stuff, I'm like, no, like that feels super real to me, for them to not feel seen in my work in that way. So I take a step back and I always like readjust and realize it's not personal. But that's when the pressure seeps in is that you want joy. Like you just want joy. You don't really even want a specific goal. You want people to be happy. And
yeah.
2026 and 2025 was, I think, really hard on everybody's communities and everybody's people. So that's where the pressure sits in is only just wanting people to smile. Like I can't make you smile sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's just that answer is a reflection of you and your heart. And, you're not operating from a selfish space because there have been people in the world that, call themselves activists or call themselves philanthropists, but, they're only doing it for face value and for their gain. So to hear something like that where you're not going to be satisfied until everybody else is satisfied until we're all seen, heard, taken care of, represented. So thank you for the work that you do and that you will continue to do. Okay, next question. Our generation's Gen Z sometimes gets a bad rep. Like we always want to be on the phones and we want to be on TikTok, and people think that we always want to see ourselves as the main character. How do you balance the need for taking in diverse perspectives and experiences and sentiments in storytelling, and then exploring your own story, if that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense. And I think the answer is pretty simple and it's reading, which like you and I both know. So when you read those scripts or when you get the chance to like read a new project, that's how you get the opportunity to both like see yourself as the main character and also see somebody else's experience. So
Mhm.
I feel like my answer is always simple in this way where Gen Z has this problem because a lot of Gen Z does not like to read. And other generations were much more creative in finding their ways of like imagining themselves as represented even when they weren't. And I
Mhm.
need Gen Z, and that's why I'm so excited about like the book charms and about all the things you're doing, and even the campaign that launched today. You guys have to see. Storm is like the rep for I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, so I'm really proud as a Black girl. Like Black girl books, this is my stuff. This shows a lot of progress for me. 10 years down the line to have a campaign around fashion and books. But the point of your question being, all I can do is support events like this and like continue to stick to the idea that if you are curious about the world around you, it will literally bloom for you. Like it will
Mhm.
bloom. Like if you are interested in it, it will become the most interesting thing. But if you're disinterested in it, it will be the most boring thing. Like
Mhm.
that is as simple as the question that reading and literacy can give you. And I think that's why like people forget that actors are readers at their core and that they have to read all of this stuff and memorize it. And it's the same thing for me as like an activist and as a writer and a researcher.
Amazing. I love that. And let me go through my document. Sorry, y'all.
Yeah, we would
um,
have had note cards. It would have been a whole shebang, but like
yeah.
we have to do our thing. But I don't know, it might be my turn. Um,
Is it?
it might be my turn, but if you have one more
Okay.
question for me, or I don't think we have any more
Okay.
questions for
I
you.
don't, this is not, on what I'm supposed to be asking, but just out of curiosity, what is your ultimate, like, if there's no more books in the world, what is your one book that you are going to continue to read and that you would like recommend for young people to read, but specifically young Black women to read?
Okay, well, it has to be fun. If it's one book, it has to be kind of like a fun book.
Only
Um,
one.
hmm, that's so hard. Wait, I want help from my roommate Naja. Naja, do you have any recommendations? No, she's thinking. I just put her on the spot. Now I gotta think.
Hey, Naja.
Hi, my recommendation would be I would say the when it comes to Kindred by Octavia Butler. No, Kindred by
Mm,
Octavia Butler would be the one. I think it's probably the most like science fictiony of all the
mhm.
Black girl stories that you could get. I would do maybe it would probably either be like it couldn't be Parable of the Sower, but maybe either there's a book called Wild Seed by her as well that's pretty good. That's like dystopian-y, but it would have to be Octavia Butler because of the science fiction. If you're reading one book, it can't just be like an everyday life
Right.
story, right, Naj? You feel that way, Naja? Thank you, Naja. Appreciate that. Okay, well, I'm going to ask you now. We can get into the book of the day, which is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, and I'm so happy that you all received a copy. You can say thank you to Coach on the way out and the amazing team for providing that, along with Penguin Random House. But we are featuring this as a part of Coach's Explore Your Story campaign because Maya Angelou's journey has so many kind of nuggets and hardships and struggles that are relevant today. So I'm going to ask you a few questions about it, and I know we're going to move pretty quickly into audience. So I think I'm only going to ask you. I want to ask you one, and then we're gonna shift into other ones if that's okay with you.
Yeah, it's
But
fine.
I think the story of Maya Angelou. She got her job as like the first Black streetcar conductor at age 15, and then she had this creative writing teacher that helped her open up her voice. And of course, the book does center so much around violence and trauma in certain ways, and we won't really get into that here. But I guess the question is, tell me about a time that you didn't give up, and I want you to within that tell me how did you like find your voice through that overcoming, where it's not about taking a step back and choosing like silence, but where's a time where you actually had to speak up and be like, no, this is not the thing, whether it's through A Seat in Wings or as a student. I'm sure you've had those moments where it's not actually about the stepping back, it's about like leaning in and saying, hey, I'm Storm and this is what I need.
Yeah, no, I've had tons of moments like that, but I would say definitely the decision. Well, it's a two part, but the decision to attend USC and then actually attending USC, that was a big challenge for me, and it was something that people thought that I couldn't do, that I shouldn't be doing, that I was wasting my time, and it was a journey for me where like I just kind of wanted to get my feet wet. I didn't know if I wanted to really like stay or if I wasn't gonna like it or enjoy it. But then when I got to campus and I realized how much I needed to be there personally, forget the actress, forget the producer, like how Storm, the young, 18-year-old, how much she needed to be there, then I really had to like you said, lean in and
Aw.
let people know in my life being, my mom, my family, my friends, and my team and the faculty and staff at SC that like yes, I love my career and I want to continue to work, but I also need to further my education and I want to like be a kid and go to the parties and go to the football games and go to the basketball games and like not get in the house until 3:30 a.m. Like I needed those things. So I think I really had to, have autonomy over myself, which can seem simple, but when you're trying to do so many things and you're being pulled in so many different directions and you don't want to disappoint people, then it becomes really hard. So I had moments where I had to kind of like, negate everything else and kind of check in with myself and say, hey, no, like you need to be at school right now, you need to be on campus, and you'll be okay. Like the work will always be there, but these 4 years you don't get that back.
Yeah, I think I really, really struggled with that through the first like 3 years entirely of just being like, should I be here? Should I not be here? Is there something else waiting for me on the other side of this that I've just been missing? And you find out now with, 10 weeks left, there wasn't anything waiting on the other side of it. This was the fun part. This was what I was supposed to be doing. And I love that, I think, as a final way of like wrapping up the serious questions for you. But I have a lightning round, okay? So we're gonna do a this or that full book edition. Are you ready? Okay.
Yes. Oh, I'm scared.
First, ebook or hard copy?
Hard copy.
Paperback or hardcover?
Paperback. Hardcover is like too
I
official.
agree.
Like I
It's way
can't.
too official, way too serious. Read in the
Yeah.
morning or read at night?
Read at night to wind down.
Do you fall asleep while you read? Like, do you ever?
Oh,
Yeah, that's my
sometimes
thing
it's so
though.
funny. I used to get in trouble for that when I was younger. Like we had like the what is it called? The
Reading logs, or
reading
no?
logs.
Yeah.
Yes, and like had to do the whole like book report. That's what I'm
There
looking
you
for. The
go.
book. Yes, the book report. And I would fall asleep all the time, and my mom would get so upset.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I would always like be like, I finished it and I don't want to talk about it. I didn't like it, and not do the book report.
Literally.
Do you bookmark your books or do you dog ear them?
It just depends. I'm usually a dog-eared girl, though.
Okay, notes in the margin or clean copy?
No, notes. I want you to know that I was there. I want, like, to go back and look at
I'm
my
the
thoughts. I'm
same.
always writing.
Fiction or nonfiction?
I guess these days nonfiction, but I do love a good fiction.
That's
But you gotta really pull
surprising. You're
me
getting
in.
old.
I
No,
know, that's
no, I don't like that. That was a trick question. Um,
okay.
Goodreads or book journal?
Ooh, maybe book journal.
Same. Library or bookstore?
I love a little bookstore, like a niche little bookstore. LA has some
Yeah,
good
LA is
books.
so cute.
Yeah.
New release or classic?
Ooh, I'm a classic type of girl.
And then are you a fast reader or do you like to savor the story?
I like to savor the story, and I'm like a slow reader. That might be surprising to some, but I'm pretty slow. So I'm just gonna savor the moment.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you guys for being an amazing audience. Can we give a big round of applause to Storm for this amazing conversation? And maybe for me too, if you enjoyed it at
Yes,
all.
and for Marley,
That would be really nice. Um, but it's not over yet. They asked me that there was a second where we were like, maybe we weren't going to do audience Q&A, but I was like, what are we talking about? We have to do audience Q&A. So I wanted to know if anyone has some questions. You can raise your hand and one of our brand ambassadors will bring you a microphone if we want to do some of that first. And in the meantime, while you think of your questions, I have audience polls. So can people raise their hands for me? We're going to do some like book. We need to get a sense of the Boston book community to see if we can keep doing more events, okay? So I need audience participation. So raise your hand if you have read Maya Angelou's writing before. Okay. Wow, that was good. Okay, I feel very like proud. Please don't lie though. That would make me sad. Then I wouldn't feel proud. How many people feel that they can express themselves fully and authentically on social media? I'm not ready. We got some hand raised. Okay, we have a few. That was light. That was a light dash. Storm, do you feel that you can express yourself? I mean, I think that's exactly. No,
It's
no.
like yes and no. Like I feel like I'm most comfortable on TikTok. I don't know why. Like I think I could just be silly and be myself. But like the other social media platforms just feel very like, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I think TikTok and like Substack, I think when it comes to music and writing, that's usually where I find my groove. But Instagram has become so everything, you know? Um, and how many of you guys feel that you can express yourself authentically in your daily lives? However, for me, it feels a little bit higher. Okay. And the last one is how many of you get time to read for pleasure weekly? Weekly reading for pleasure. Okay, now monthly. Higher. Okay. So we have a pretty good, I feel like we can do this again. Do you guys raise your hand if you would want to do this again or come back for an in-person event with Storm? I like those hands raised. Amazing. Okay, so do we have any audience questions? I'm curious. Okay. Thank you. If you want to raise, say your name, where
So
you're
yeah,
from,
my
student.
name is Scott. I'm from West Orange,
Oh,
New Jersey.
bruh, it's not my dad.
Hi, Mr. Scott.
So I have a question for Marley. Given your rigorous amount of schoolwork and other things that you do you actually, and you just kind of touched on this, do you have time to read for pleasure still? And if you do, what are you currently reading?
Amazing question, Scott. I'm actually reading the Farmer's Almanac from 1989. You recommended it to me. So I'm looking back into agricultural systems from the pre-colonial days in which you were raised. That's what I'm doing. Love you. Okay, with that note, we're gonna ask the questions. We're gonna ask some questions to the audience if people feel comfortable sharing their experiences with storytelling and reading, since my dad wanted to make things very unserious for a second. I wanted to ask for anyone who feels comfortable sharing, does anyone have a book that makes them feel seen and why? A book that they really feel like, maybe they didn't expect or that they've loved as a kid and are like, that's the one. We have an immediate hand. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Um, I really love the Dork Diaries series. I feel like quirky black girls are not shown enough in media. So like when I was in 5th grade, I loved that book and I found out the main characters are black, bro. Oh my gosh, like it literally changed my life and I'm like, wow, this is so me. Like I feel seen right now. I can't believe this.
No, I remember turning around and seeing a black author every time you finish it and you look around, you're like, that was made by a black woman. Like, that's awesome.
Exactly.
But in your head, you didn't know if it was actually about you or not. So I remember I had that exact same moment too. And I think it was cool on her end to leave it open for interpretation, but also for us to know deep down that it was about us. Does anyone else have a story they want to share? We got one over on the other side. Thank you.
Oh, I read this book called How to Break the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza, and it was really interesting. It talks about living in the eternal present moment and not living in the past or the future, and it really helps you embrace how you can bring the sense of all your true power into the present moment and truly take action in everything that you do. And I think you guys are beautiful manifestations of that energy being, put into action. So that's really beautiful. And that's what happens when you can truly connect with that power.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. I was in London studying abroad last semester, and I read a book called The Tao of Pooh, which is about like Taoism. And in there, they talk about like this idea of Wu Wei, or the idea of being like an uncarved block. So there's if you focus on and prioritize effortless action, you will remain like uncarved or like unchanged, and your being can just kind of move through the world unaffected by things, but constantly like consuming only the good. Because if you only focus on the good, you can kind of roll through that. You can roll through life. But the way that I learned that was through Winnie the Pooh stories. So it's like an entirely drawn, animated, super cute comic book way to learn about philosophy. And then I wrote a final project on like Taoism, and I got a pretty good grade. So it was a cool way to learn about it and then get to use books as research. But I think if anybody else has one more question, I would love for someone to dart a hand up. But if not, there we go. We have our last one for the evening.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm from Connecticut, but I went to school in Boston. I went to Emerson, so very exciting. I had to write it down because I had a lot. So I'm with Dreamworld Girls Zine, and the big aspect of the zine is about girlhood in every aspect and every diverse aspect. and just experiencing girlhood in those aspects as well. And you and Storm talked about your creative upbringings, tying it all the way back to when you were younger. I just wanted to ask, how do your experiences in your own girlhood and what you experienced in your own girlhood from what you remember influence your growing creative world?
Yeah, I think my girlhood was all about, honestly, the funniest thing is that my girlhood was my dad figuring out how to be a girl dad. And I think when you have a girl dad and you're an only child or you're the first daughter, you have this very unique relationship with your dad where it's like your mom is so excited to dress you up and to like doll you up and do all the girl stuff. And you're like figuring it out slowly and you're a different kind of like woman and girl than your mom. So she's happy for you, but she's also like, you're kind of weird because you're not like like they're figuring out that you're never a mini me. You know, moms have to constantly deal with the fact that they love their kid, but their kid is never them and they don't want their kid to be them because you want them to be them. But dads are like, let's go outside and fish. Like my dad was like, let's build a treehouse. Like, let's go to the shed. And like having a dad who was giving me the sense of adventure, I feel like was very good with a mom who was giving me a sense of like beauty, where my girlhood wasn't just attached to like being fragile and like being away from adventure or not being involved in like what life had to offer. But I was like quarterback of the flag football team in West Orange for third grade and fourth grade because my dad checked the rule book and like didn't see a rule that girls couldn't play. And it was mostly because he wanted to be a coach and like yell at kids and watch them like try to run around and crack an egg on his head and eat grass, which is what he did. But it also gave me the opportunity to be quarterback of like a all boys flag football team. And even though I wasn't that great and we had a okay season, our second season as the 49ers, I did everything I could to learn about like leadership and also what it was like to see how mean boys were when girls were doing things or trying to do things with them. And like that was a big lesson for him, I think, as a young dad, to see like how unfair the world was and how many people didn't want me to play just off of the fact that there was like a rule which also didn't exist that wasn't going to allow me to play. And I never went on to go to the NFL. I never picked up a football again, but like the exercise of watching him push for that, I think represents like my girlhood to a T. Was that I didn't want to be a cheerleader and my dad like found a way for me to be a flag football coach. Then when I saw Bella and the Bulldogs, I was like, this is literally about me. Like I think that's what like made my little brain be like, I'm the main character of every story because I'm literally Bella and the Bulldogs. So that's my girlhood, I think, in a nugget. Storm, do you have any nuggets that define it like that for you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we had very, very similar experiences. Me thinking about it while you were just talking, like, I think a lot of what shaped me as a young woman now, but like my girlhood was just like I was able to just be. I was able to experience and learn and see and make mistakes. And I think my parents did a great job of like, not putting any restraints or titles on anything, just like do it, try it out. But I also, with my older brother, I think the similar experience you had with your dad, like my brother is the ultimate boy. So like the football, the climbing trees, the getting dirty, the riding what is it called? Dirt bikes down the road and like the four-wheelers. Like it was the whole thing of like you can do anything you want to do and yeah, you can go hang out with the boys and like get dirty, but my mom also created a space of my mom's not the super like girliest either, but like yes, we can go get our nails done and yes, you look beautiful and your hair is gorgeous and you deserve to like feel that, but also you can just do whatever you want to do. You're a kid, and I think that's what I was able to really relish and live in. Like my girlhood was just childhood, and thankfully enough my childhood was joyous and pretty carefree.
Oh, amazing. I love that question. Well, everybody, this concludes our session for today. This was so great and is truly just the start of the conversation. I will be in Boston. I'm a Boston girl. My family's here. So expect me around for many more events. And now it is up to you guys to keep the conversation going in your everyday lives. So Coach has partnered with Cafe Vittoria on the North End to provide a space for further discussion for us. So inside your books, you will find a free drink card for Cafe Vittoria, and you can head there now to redeem and continue the conversation. So thank you all. Can we give another big round of applause for Storm?
Yes,
This is
another
so incredible. She bossed up. Um, I found out that she wasn't going to be here at 3 p.m. today in CVS when I was getting makeup. So I am so happy that I was able to make this happen. I'm so happy that I didn't melt to the floor. And I want to say thank you to the coach team, the AV team, the MFA, you, Storm, A Seat in Wings, my parents, and each and every one of you as audience members. Thank you all again. Can you give yourselves a round of applause?
Yes, thank you guys. Thank you to everybody involved. Again, my sincerest apologies that I'm not able to be there in person and continue to talk and chit chat and take pictures. Like, I was really looking forward to that, but hopefully we can get something on the books where I'm there very soon and it's not like Armageddon outside snowing.
Yeah, yeah, you can't handle the snow. It's actually insane. 3 feet. All right, thank you guys again.
Awesome. Bye, y'all. Thank you. Thank you, Marley. You're the best.